Okay, it's episode 9. We're back, and we thought that this week we would kind of take you guys behind the scenes of our buying process and how we curate our weekly drops.
Yeah.
We're prepping to go to market to
Vegas.
shop. Yes, we're going to Vegas. We're going back. And that's in August. So internally, we've been kind of starting to talk about our buying process and starting to do the prep for the holiday season. Typically, we go to market about once a quarter, and then in between markets, as we need fill-ins, we'll buy things. But our buying trips are really where we try to like stock up and reserve all the stuff we want for the next few months.
Yeah, 2 things. One, I think this is the first podcast I'm wearing shoes.
Lauren's not barefoot for once.
I love being barefoot. And 2, buying trips. Yes, we're going to go into buying trips a little bit and talk about how we plan our buying and buy, but also how we use that as a time for some like team bonding and to get our heads on straight.
Yep.
So
yeah. So one of the first things we do ahead of going.
Well, what I was going to say is, do you want to talk about the evolution of buying first before we actually do it? Because it's come a long way. Let's put it that way.
Oh, gosh. And how much detail? You start.
Okay, I'll just give a quick synopsis. When we started, we thought that we were the bee's knees, the cat's pajamas, and we printed out inspo packs and we put them in a binder. And we walked around market with this binder. And that was our strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the starting ground. Then we were like, second time we went to market, we're like, surely we don't need to bring a binder and like a whole backpack. Like,
well, okay, before that even, we never used like online buying. We, in the beginning,
right.
We went to like 4 buying shows.
Well, to be fair, we also didn't know if we were going to even like, quote unquote, open the shop at first.
Yeah.
We were going to market to look around.
Yeah.
Okay, we came out with a whole stock. But
yeah.
Yes. And then we were still really scared. At the first time, we're like, why would anyone even buy online? Why wouldn't you come to the markets? Like, we knew everything after one market.
Yeah. And we still do prefer to buy things, the majority of things at market, because we get to see them and touch them and feel them and
so
slide
I still
them
stand
on.
by that in some capacity of majority of buying is, in our opinion, best at market because of you can truly like see, feel.
Yeah. But over time we've realized that it's just not always doable because we're not just going to buy stuff at market that we don't love. So
and once we describe it, you'll understand a little bit better. But so it evolved from no binders then, and we still didn't really have a strategy, honestly. We kind of just went in based on season and said like, okay, obviously now knowing it's winter, we need to buy like coats and whatever.
Yeah. And I feel like the biggest thing that has evolved over time as we've grown is when we would go to market before, we were always telling the vendors to just like process and ship things just because we like needed inventory to sell.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, we've had to really rethink that and make sure from a cash flow perspective, we were able to sustain the amount of money we were buying on inventory with sales. So that's like another big thing that has changed. So now we buy things more on like a month-to-month basis, which has really helped streamline our processes internally. And I mean, it's come such a long way. And it's still evolving. I mean,
I was going to say just today we were talking about an evolution of how we're going to buy it. It's at all times
we're constantly changing and improving it, but we've come a long way.
Yeah, that's the other thing, just in general with the business that I have had to get used to. And I mean, I think everybody, but obviously can only speak for myself, is because it's such a learning curve and because retail is so unpredictable, truly, things change all the time.
Yep.
And you just have to like be staying on your toes and be ready to change something at the drop of a dime.
Totally.
Which part of me, it's like I love the thrill of that because I'm like, oh, it never gets boring around here because we're about starting over tomorrow.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, oh my God, can we hit the pause button for a sec?
Yeah. And truly, like, when we go to place our orders for 1 month and we receive the inventory and go through that entire process, we basically just start it all over again.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Recently, I moved into like a little bit more of the buying role, and
she's been killing it.
In my mind, though, was thinking like, okay, on this date, I place it, and then I've got till next month.
It's a full time.
And it's literally like the next day you have to already start emailing vendors about like things that this is another trap that happens all the time is things are, when you go to market, you pick out items. It doesn't mean you leave with the items. It means that they give you a date that it should be able to ship by.
You're basically pre-ordering.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what happens, as you can imagine, is probably 50% of the time, you get to that suggested ship date, you contact the vendor, and they either didn't end up cutting that style, they don't have it, it's run out, you have to wait to a new date that they pushed it back to. So that's honestly what a lot of it ends up coming down to is like, okay, so
Yeah.
that's out.
Yeah.
And
sometimes we build like an entire collection around one item that is no longer available. So that's
correct.
always really fun. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of different moving parts. Like sometimes the manufacturer tells the vendor that there's an ETA, and then something happens with the manufacturing or the logistics of getting it over here, or you know, there's so many different factors, and we're kind of like the end person. So sometimes that trickle down is really tough for us to navigate because, yeah, I mean, we'll have like things fully figured out, go to buy, and realize that 6 of our key items that we were really hoping for are no longer available when we thought they were. So,
and that we could go into that a little bit more in the next
Yeah.
podcast too, like what everybody's roles are,
Yeah.
because I think that like, I know people have asked me that too. Like, so
Yep.
what do each of you do for the
Yeah.
business? Because honestly, sometimes on Instagram, it appears we just play around with short guns in here and have a good time, which we do because
Yes,
it's important.
yes.
However, we should go into a little bit of like what everybody's role is.
Yeah.
But anyways, for now, we were kind of just talking about the buying process because we're going to Vegas here soon. And so we just today started talking again about like, what's our strategy? What are we looking for? What do we think people are going to want? Because we run into a lot like, I want a full length shirt or I want a crop. And then it gets time to sell it. And just sometimes like what people say verbally does not equate to what's actually selling.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mind game every time of, well, what do people really want to buy, not ideally want?
Yeah. I feel like retail in general is just no matter how much data and analytics and all the things you have, it comes down to the best educated guess a lot of times, which is hard. But what we do prior to going to market is we kind of map out the quarter that we're buying for, and we kind of look at any major events that are happening, any holidays, any anything that's going on that we know is relevant for our customers. So things like kids going back to school in August, or fall family photos or things like that. We kind of map out
Quarterly.
those, map out those months and kind of look at those so that we make sure we're going into market with those things in mind. So that obviously the things we're buying are relevant to what you guys have going on in your lives during that quarter.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that's the most important thing that we have learned is you can look online or in a book or this or that about like what you think is going to be trending. But if it's not what is trending with your customers,
100%.
I mean, that's our main goal, is to bring things to everybody that you actually want to wear and purchase. And that can be, you know, an everyday outfit, but then it's also a place to go for a pop of trend or a nicer piece or, you know, kind of just having the best of both worlds. And so that's why we always say like your feedback is so important to us, because we listen to what you're saying and we take like real high note of that, because we obviously want to give our customers what they want.
Over time we've gotten like really, really specific on our core customer, and we have gotten to know you very, very, very well. And we're constantly studying and trying to learn more, but that's definitely something to...
That sounded real creepy, like we're not peering in your windows, I promise.
We're not
just mean
peeping
data-wise.
Toms, I promise.
Yeah, we're not like hanging in your backyard.
But a lot of times when we go to market, you know, some of our vendors, like on the mannequins, will be these really cute things. And we're like, nope, that's not our customer's price point. They're not going to buy that. Or there's something obnoxious that we're like, okay, that might be the best seller for that vendor, but like our customer doesn't want to wear that.
Yeah, and about 50% of market is, I want that for myself.
Yeah, yes, we do
Which
that all the
everybody
time.
asks me that too. Like my mom and sisters always like, get me something good. I'm like, it doesn't work like that.
Unfortunately, you can't just buy things
go
off
into
the
market
rack.
and just buy things off the rack, or else we'd come back with a few more suitcases.
Yes.
Which I wish you could, because there are things that we say
so dangerous.
that would be really dangerous.
Oh my god, that'd
you
be
pre-order
so
everything
dangerous.
basically, so it's not like
It's not a
you
sample
can go
sale.
and shop.
Yeah.
Which
So yeah, we do some work on some trend forecasting and some just like relevant time. We take a lot of time just kind of thinking through the mindset that our customers in during this time of year, which for August, we're going to be buying for fall and holiday, which is really fun. Holiday is always fun.
Yeah, and in the near future, I think we'll start putting that type of stuff on our Instagram. Like, what
Yeah.
is your mindset? What are you looking forward to in fall? What do
Yep.
you buy clothes? Like, we want to hear that.
Totally, totally. I mean, we have past, sales data, but we always welcome any feedback regarding like what you're shopping for or what you're struggling to find, or even if you're like, that drop was not my vibe, like, please tell us.
Okay, that is what I was just about to say. I want to promise something that we are not going to ever be offended if you say like, I loved this, but I really didn't like
Totally.
this, because we want to know that. Like, again, it comes to a best educated guess, but like your word on things
and we're
helps
so
us so much
close
more.
to it. Like,
Right.
getting the outside point of view, outside looking in, is invaluable to us.
So never be
so yeah, we
afraid
always
to tell us you
welcome
hate
that.
something,
Yeah.
because I can promise you there's times that we've looked at something so many times that I'm like, do
Yeah.
you like this?
Yeah.
So you're not going to hurt our feelings. We didn't make it. We didn't create it. Like, we aren't,
Yep.
this isn't like, you're saying our children are ugly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You're just,
It takes a lot to offend us in general.
yeah.
So okay, that's kind of like the prep side of things. We really look at the weeks of the month. We try to take into consideration timing and trends and all of those things. And then when we go, it's basically set up as like a massive trade show. So every vendor has their own booth and they bring a sample of all of the items that are currently available for you to buy or pre-order. And what we've learned after doing it for a few years now, which is crazy to say, were you going to
Well, I was just going to say, when you said booth,
Yeah.
I was going to say picture like if your local city center, like,
Yeah.
like it's open in the middle, but there are floor upon floor upon floor of vendor upon vendor upon vendor.
Yep.
It's probably maybe like a 20 by 20 space everybody has.
Yeah, it depends on the vendor. Some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger.
Yes.
But just racks.
And I mean, racks upon racks
hundreds
upon
of
racks.
thousands of items. It's extremely overwhelming.
And picture it being like in a casino. Like, there aren't windows.
Yeah.
You don't see a clock anywhere. It's
Fluorescent
lighting. One of us has a headache within the first 2 hours.
It's a recipe for a headache and exhaustion.
We'll have to try to find a picture that we could post to kind of give you an idea, because I think everyone's like, oh, you're going shopping. That's so fun. And while there are fun elements to it, it is
it's
probably
draining.
not what you picture.
It's really mentally and physically draining, but it's also like so exciting because it's the time we get to pick out all of our inventory.
Totally. Like, we love it, but by the end, your arm hurts from sifting. Your legs are like buckling.
Yeah.
That sounds ridiculous,
No,
but it's true.
It's so true. My back hurts so bad every time. Another thing that we started to do in prep, just backing up a little bit, is go through and kind of identify our key vendors that we want to see. So when we were first starting out, we really didn't know who our key vendors were. We weren't familiar with all the vendors, but now we kind of do our homework and figure out like who we want to start with. We usually start with like the really, really big vendors that are super, super overwhelming and have hundreds of things there because we're fresh minded.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those vendors kind of lay the foundation for then the other things that we kind of supplement in as we go see other vendors.
That made me think of when you were saying that about vendors. I don't think I realized until probably honestly working here.
Yeah.
Like, when people would always say like, oh, shop small, whatever. I don't know that I realized how much true work goes into like a boutique of picking for you, like a Nordstrom's, whatever. I mean, they just buy because they have such a variety of people, but ours is so much more personalized and we like to keep it that way because it's like what sets us apart from these like big retailers. But it's interesting when you know the other side of it to realize what all goes into it.
Yep.
That it's
and like the vendors are also small businesses.
Yeah.
So like not only when you're shopping small with someone like us are you supporting us, but you're also supporting another small business that's in the US, versus like a Shein or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, we could go into
and that's the thing, like we start to make relationships with these vendors, we like start to talk to them, you get to know them, you get to know their stories and whatnot. And it really is like
it's all
pretty
like
neat to see it all come together.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. And I think too, what it kind of sets us apart from like how you mentioned like a Nordstrom is that we have kind of found our niche in shopping younger contemporary brands because their price points are really good. But we spend hours upon hours sifting these racks to find like those gems within those vendors. Like we
Yeah.
sometimes we see buyers in these booths and they're just like picking stuff out and like, yep.
I
But
can't
like
tell you the amount of
we
times we've
don't
looked at
do
each other and
that.
said, like, did they even look at it before they like
Yeah.
placed their sale for it? Like we were
Yeah.
very meticulous about it. And not only at market, again, spending hours upon hours, but if you
Yeah.
knew
Oh
how
my
much
God.
time we probably spend in the wee hours of the night scrolling to find
Yeah.
the perfect thing on some of these like vendor websites.
Yeah. That
It
is something that I
takes
really pride
so
ourselves
much
on.
time. And
Because it's a
wild.
lot of work. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
sifting, but it makes it so that we can keep our price points really affordable. But we find those key items and we
Yeah.
spend the freaking time finding
But I
them.
can't tell you how many times we have texted back and forth, maybe at like 1 a.m. and said, am I just like really
Am I
tired?
losing my
Or
mind?
is this cute? Like, have I lost
All
it?
the
Or is this
time.
cute? And sometimes we'll be like, yeah, that's cute. Or sometimes we'll be like, you need to go to
You
bed.
need to go to sleep.
Like, that is
Yeah.
hideous. You know, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
back and forth, a lot of looking, a lot of
Yeah,
talking
so
it out.
when we go through the vendor booths, we've gotten to a point where we kind of divide and conquer because there's just so much to see. So we all kind of take a section within each vendor.
Mhm.
We go through and pull the things that we think could have potential, and then we kind of come together. We review them all together, kind of give our pitch on what we like about it or how we'd style it.
Yeah, the first time Tracy came to a market with us, I was like, okay, so now it'll be your turn and you got to present your items. She's like, what? I'm like, all right, it's not that serious, but like you just tell like what you picked and explain your kind of thinking behind it. And then I told Tracy, I'm like, and I just need to warn you because there's so much to go through. I promise you I'm not banging a big old bitch, but if you hold something up and immediately we're like, nope, next. I'm like, promise we're not being mean, but we have
And we
thousands
all
upon
do it,
thousands
like-
upon thousands. We all do it.
And you do kind of start to like,
But
your
you
eyes start to cross. And you
yeah.
need somebody to be like, no, absolutely not.
Agree.
Keep going.
Yeah. And so we were laughing that we had to preface that, but I mean, Tracy caught on right away to like, okay, yeah, yep. And now everybody does it. But it is for us, that process has worked of like, quote unquote, presenting your items, saying what you're thinking. And then we yay or nay, we pare it down, and then we go from there.
Mhm.
Because we all kind of want to get our eyes on everything, but it's impossible to truly look at absolutely everything. So we have found that dividing and conquering, then looking at everything that's in our pile
Yep.
has worked for us.
Yeah, and we all have different like kind of point of views on style too
Mhm.
and how we'd style things. So I love that because I feel like we each of us always pick something out that maybe we wouldn't have
Challenges
picked,
somebody else.
but
Yeah, I agree.
I really find a lot of value in that. So
Totally. And Sav has honestly helped some of that too because
Yeah.
she'll make a point and I'm like, oh, are
yeah,
people wearing that?
Yeah.
But it's true.
yeah.
And I mean, some things that, I mean, anyone has suggested we'll try on and be like, oh, yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
I mean, all of us. So,
And
that
if we're
part's kinda fun.
unsure about something in the vendor booth, we typically try to wear like tight clothing so that one of us can throw it on because
Mhm.
sometimes I mean, you guys know sometimes things on a hanger look so much different on, and that's one of the perks of going is that we can kind of slip it on. The vendors don't like it, but we don't care.
If you have told us.
If you want us to buy your product
Yeah.
and we're unsure about something, if you're not going to let us try it on, then you're not going to get it from us.
Yeah. And if you followed us from like almost the beginning, you've seen
Lauren's
some
gotten
photos
stuck
of
in a
getting
dress.
stuck in some things. I got stuck in a dress one time and I'm not kidding, was hyperventilating because I started to panic.
I'll never forget that.
I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. They're walking towards me. Like, get it off of me. And of course, Elizabeth starts taking pictures. I'm like, get this off of me.
I had the giggles so bad.
But we've all now since probably gotten caught in a few
Yes.
things. However, yeah, if you follow along, honestly, some of our market content is funny because something always happens.
And sometimes we think something's cute again on the hanger, and then we put it on, and we're like, "Wow, absolutely!"
I'm like, thank God we put that
yeah.
on. That's terrible. Or vice versa.
Yeah. So from there, once we kind of go through everything and decide what we want to actually pre-order, we have a conversation with the buyer. We tell them how many quantities we want. Another big thing that goes into the decision-making process is how much it costs wholesale, because that drives what we will retail it for to you guys. So we always try to keep everything under $100. And honestly, if it's even above like 80, it's definitely something we have to think really long and hard on because we really try to keep things affordable. So that's another
Like,
big piece. I mean,
how everybody currently, including myself, is complaining about like, my God, gas is so expensive. Groceries
Yeah.
are so expensive. We've seen the retail side of that
Yeah.
to fluctuate, and
there are
it's just
vendors we
always a
used to
game.
love, but we can't even shop with them anymore because their
Yeah.
price points are just too high.
But that's just really important to us. Like, we want to find
Yeah.
good quality things in a decent
Yeah.
price point because
Yeah.
we know that that is like what everybody, including ourselves, wants.
Yeah.
We don't want to spend $200 on a sweater I'm going
T-shirt.
to wear a few times.
Yeah.
Like what? I don't,
Yeah,
we all have
totally.
kids to feed.
Yeah, so we talk through that. Most of the time, we won't even like pull things that aren't going to work, even
Unless
though
they
we
pull
want to
out and
take
say,
them
like,
home
"I
for
want it
ourselves."
marked
Yeah.
Elizabeth tried to get a vendor to give her a dress to wear somewhere to
Yeah.
Cabo. She was convinced he was going to call her, and he never called her.
He never called me. That was
I thought that was
real.
kind of stupid on his part.
I mean, that was really
But
stupid.
whatever,
On his
that's
part.
a whole
His
nother-
boss must have said no.
I don't even think he wrote it down.
Yeah, he did. He texted me.
Did he?
Yeah, but
Well,
he missed out on a real good pick.
yeah. Yeah. And then we do have some like vendors, like I said, that we've built relationships with that we will text you saying he texted you, remind me. I was thinking of how one of our athletic vendors we just recently texted an idea to, and a week later he sent us back a mock-up, and we're like
they literally had made a sample of it.
Made a sample
on
to show
a
us,
mannequin.
and we were like, that is super cool.
Yeah,
like
I
I
don't
love
even
it.
think it was a week. It was so
It was
fast.
really fast, and that. Now that we're like kind of getting into some of that too, like that is super exciting for us.
And he was kind of asking us questions about like what he asked me, like what color he should start with. And I was like, I think black would be safe just to start, and he was asking what it's like to go to the bathroom in it, which was
we
really
were joking
funny.
around because we gave him an idea like a while ago, and then we saw it at market, and I was like, oh, whoa, where was my kickback for that? And we kept joking around like, you better give us free shipping for that. And he did. Just kind of, we've just built a good relationship, but it is so like interesting to see how it goes. But so anyways, the buying process is always happening, and it is changing every single day, which is cool. It's cool, but it's honestly that's
kind
why
of a game of
we
Tetris
get so
at all
excited about the
times.
drops, because for us this has been our baby for like the past however many months we've had it on the docket, and it finally gets like released, and we're like,
let's talk about like after. So okay, we go through that process with every vendor. We basically just place pre-orders for everything, so we keep track of every single thing that we buy, and we get pictures of every single thing that we buy, and then we come back
and we dump it all into a spreadsheet, which is such a fun day. Talk about your eyes crossing.
Which that whole process has evolved so much too.
Yeah, agree. So we dump it into a spreadsheet so we can keep account of like when things are supposed to come and whatnot. And then
and honestly, just so we don't forget about it.
Yeah, well,
like,
there's
sometimes we pre-order things like 6 months out, and then like if we didn't have a record of it, we would never even remember that it was on order.
Well, and so in the new process, the beginning of the month, probably like the first of the month, it involves me emailing all of our vendors just saying, please let me know what outstanding items we have with you that are currently ready. I don't want to see ones that are 2 months out. I want to see what's currently ready to build out. I then will take that time to digest what we already have, plug that in, and then that's where we go and say like, okay, because X, Y, and Z wasn't available, we need to find like items or find different fill-in items. And then that's where that whole process begins. And then we put the order through, and then that's where the buying perspective kind of stops. Once every order is put through, it kind of goes into Sav's hands.
Well, and before that, we kind of put everything in Canva and try to visually map out the drops.
I guess I was I kind of skipped that part saying when I meant drop it in. That's what exactly. We kind of visualize the drops, and that's where Elizabeth and I will kind of communicate a lot and say like, do we like how this is kind of playing out? Because also a lot of thought goes into each drop. We're not just like tossing items in a drop. It's really thought through based on like price, style, like
variety.
There's just so much that goes into that.
That piece is a lot, because it seems like it would be easy to just like come back and put everything together, but all the vendors have different timelines for their different styles. So what we have to do first is like visually dump everything in with a photo, and then we have to say, okay, well, that's not available till the end of July, that's not available till September. So we have to like, we use Canva to do it, and we've tried other things. It's just, we're just visual people, so it just is the easiest thing for us. But based on availability, we chunk things by month, best educated guess, because again, like Lauren said in the beginning, sometimes things change. And then we curate the drops based on variety. We try to look at making sure that you can build a few different outfits with the items within it. We try to make them feel cohesive.
Right. And like, we want to make sure we have a staple piece, a fun piece. If you ever walk into the shop and see me laying on the floor half in tears, it's probably because we've gotten down to the nitty gritty and something went awry, and I'm just about to blow my lid. but that happens every single month.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that part takes us a bit. Then we put the orders through, which sometimes takes some negotiating with vendors of timeline and shipping and, you know, all that type of stuff. So that gets put through. And then, this is all logged. Every single sale is logged into a different spreadsheet that then gets moved, you know, all the back end stuff. But
another thing that you've done an amazing job of recently, Lauren, has really streamlined like our shipping, because we have to, I mean, when you're shipping 30-pound boxes of inventory from LA to Ohio, that shipping is not cheap, and we pay for that. So we've started to really try to get a grip on that, and she's done a great job with that. And even when we're placing our orders, that's another thing that becomes like another piece of this jigsaw puzzle, is like we try not to just order one style from a vendor at a time.
I mean, think about when you go to UPS or USPS and you take like a small box of an Amazon return and it's like $10 for shipping.
Yeah.
Imagine
it's
an entire box of clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we try to, like, if we have styles on order from the same vendor, we try to at least consolidate a little bit so that we're not just doing these one-offs like once a month. So that's another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's another, that's a whole other piece of the puzzle. But yes, so there's that. And then after that, I start to, oh my God, there's so many pieces to it. We start to then get the tracking for all of these. And that's when I pass tracking to Sav. Sav starts watching the tracking and figures out the receiving end. So she receives all of that. And when I say these things, I mean, I'm leaving out a lot of parts. Let's put it that way. She receives all of the items in the back.
Spreadsheets.
Yes, she takes out the invoice. She compares what was sent to what we ordered to make sure we're not missing items, damaged items, all of that. She gets it all in bins. She gets every product put into Shopify. She gets it weighed. She gets it tagged. She gets it ready to go to meet your eyes. She gets it set up for us to do the try on. And then, like I said, the Shopify, so our like website end of things, she gets that all imported in there and put into the right dates and all that stuff. I mean, which takes hours. That sounds ridiculous, but it takes hours. She photographs everything that comes in that door. She prints off that photo. It gets on a bin. It gets tagged onto the clothing. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that part. And then after that piece, we have to
unbag everything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm leaving out so many pieces and parts because there's so much to it. But then Sav gets it ready for the try on for us. We try these things on and film these try-ons so that we know how hard like shopping online can be, but we want you to be able to like hear and see and touch and feel. And that's one thing we'll never stop doing, even though some weeks I'm like, do we have to?
I know.
But it is so important, and I think it helps not only us, but you guys. So we do that, and then from there, we have to upload all of those photos, and they get put into the product photos. They get put into the try-on. They get put onto the website.
Yeah, that's where I kind of start working on the marketing.
That's what I was going to say. That's where the needle switches then to Elizabeth.
Yep.
And she has the marketing piece of it. She's making all of the email designs. She's making all of the things you see online. She's making all of the Instagram stuff. She's putting together the try-on. And again, I know this sounds so silly and you'd think like, okay, you're just like sitting on your phone putting stuff together, but it takes so much time. Little nitty-gritty things like the fact that a story can only be 60 seconds long. If a try-on is over 60 seconds for an item, Elizabeth has to then go in and chop up that entire video to still flow cohesively to make it in 60 seconds for each and every item.
Yeah.
And then there's the description of products. You know, we pride ourselves on being able to have a description in Shopify. Some people don't do that, but we want you to know, like, you know, the basics of the product. That takes time. So it all takes a little time. And then by that point, we are busting butt to start it all over again.
Yeah.
And we already feel like we're behind by the time the process ends. And it's wild to think about.
Yeah. And then like post drop the following week, Tracy is basically pulling together this monster of a report every Monday for us that kind of pulls the insights into our site traffic, our new customers, our best-selling items. I mean, it's an incredible report, but that's where she's watching over
all of the back end stuff. If something goes wrong with the website, she sees it. If something goes wrong with an email, she sees it. If you have a return, she sees it.
Data guru.
If she, So imagine.
Look how hard and thought she is over there in this.
I know she has her headphones in, but imagine like A little IT bird floating around.
We call her
I was
Travis
just about to say
when
her
she
pseudonym
needs
in
to be
here.
our
Is that what
IT
it's called?
guy.
Pseudonym?
Yeah. Nickname? Pseudonym.
I think it's pseudonym.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And that's because freaking autocorrect on my phone always changes her name to Travis. So now we've just started to embrace it. And
We say
whenever
if
we
we have
have
a
a
tech
tech issue, we're
question,
like,
we say,
Travis.
if I say Tracy, I'm like, no, I was calling Travis over here, not Tracy. Leave Tracy at her desk. I need Travis.
Okay, another interesting thing about the buying process that we've learned over time that also creates a challenge, kind of going back to like things not being available when they were supposed to be or whatever. So when we go, there are items that the vendors have that they call immediates, which means that they're readily available. They could ship them out of their warehouse like right then and there, which means
not
that
immediate that you walk home with it, but it still has to be shipped to.
But that means that the style has already been cut. They have quantities still available. They are in their warehouse and available. But when things are pre-order,
Well, pause.
yeah,
Because that is true to some degree, but we occasionally do that. And then they say, well, we don't take back the numbers to the vendor until after the show is over. So they write the order of your ordering, and you may be 100th in line. And if they didn't account for the right amount in their warehouse, it's gone. And so now you don't get it.
Or if you just don't process your order, like if you sit on it and don't process it, they're going to give it to another boutique. Like whoever buys it first and they actually get your money, they're going to give it away. So like if we order something and we say, no, don't charge and ship it yet, we're not ready for it yet, there are often times where it gets stolen out from under us.
Totally.
But then with pre-orders, a lot of times the vendors have a sample there of something that they haven't actually cut yet, so that it hasn't actually been made. And they're waiting to see how many boutiques want to buy it.
Yes.
And if there's enough demand, then they cut it and they ship it. So
there's
there
things
are
we've
some
gotten
items we're
like attached to, and then they don't end up cutting it. And we're like,
we're like, I wish we could buy enough to just justify the entire run, because that happens sometimes too, because, you know, they can't be sitting on a ton of inventory that doesn't have any demand for it either.
But
so
when we say an entire run, we mean we'd have to order thousands of one item.
Yeah.
So, you
Not
know,
possible.
And people often ask us the question, I guess we should talk about this too, about like, oh, does this shirt came in an extra large? Why doesn't this shirt come in an extra large, or vice versa? Or why do you have, you know, whatever. When you go to market, things are sold in what's called packs, and each vendor has a different size run within their pack. So some might be 2 smalls, 2 mediums, 2 larges. Some might be 3 smalls, 2 mediums, 1 large. Some might have an extra small and extra large. It is different.
It's not up to us, unfortunately.
We do not get to decide on, if we did, obviously, we would be able to accommodate more so. So we always say that to people, like, it's not that we do not want to be accommodating. It's that sometimes it's simply out of our hands.
Yeah, and something also that becomes a challenge too is like some of our vendors do like a 3-2-1. So they do 3 smalls, 2 mediums, 1 large in a pack. And that being said, larges sell out quickly, and a lot of times people will be like, are you going to restock that? Are you going to restock that? But we're still sitting on 12 smalls and no larges. So we can't justify a restock just to get a couple more larges when we also have to commit to 3 more smalls and 2 mediums.
Right. Like we can't email the vendor and be like, hey, send us 5 more mediums.
I
like,
wish.
I wish. But unfortunately, it just like doesn't work like that. We always say like, I wish. That'd be amazing. But like, that's also a business on their side. So
every once in a while, some of the vendors that we found online to shop with will do like open size runs, or if like right now we're working on some custom designs with a local vendor for game day stuff, and like in that situation, like every once in a while we can control quantities, and we absolutely love that. And like our denim vendor sometimes lets us do that, but also it just depends on what they have available. So it's a jigsaw puzzle for sure. A Rubik's Cube, I should say.
Yeah. An ever-evolving Rubik's Cube that you can actually never
you can
solve.
never fully
Just
solve.
in case you're wondering. No one,
but it's like so much fun. And honestly,
I know that sounds, I was just about to say, this is going to sound really insane to say after we just said all that, but it's kind of fun.
It's
most
a
days.
challenge.
Some days you leave here and I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually mentally drained, which people don't see that part on Instagram and stuff. Like, obviously, I mean, I would want to watch somebody laying on the ground half crying, but you just see the fun parts. But there are so many days that we leave here and we are like,
Yeah.
my head is going to pop off because
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of pressure
so
too.
much swirling around in my head. Yeah.
Like we have to make sure we have inventory to sell. That's how we make money. So
Right,
like that's a
and
lot of pressure.
Delays and things
Yeah.
brings pressures on us because I'm like, if we don't get it in time, we don't have anything to
Right.
sell.
Right. We got
So
pay
it
the
has to be
bills.
timely. Like, you know, you have to meet a deadline. Like there has to be, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, all that to say that like there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that I think we just wanted to share it on one of the podcasts because I don't think everybody like
it's a
knows
culmination
that.
of 2 years of us like learning and figuring out, and like I feel like every time we go to market we learn something else about the process because
Totally.
there's so many moving parts.
I mean, it's just like if you were to ask any other job, like, you know, like for instance, a teacher, it's like everybody's like, oh, they're just teaching their class all day. It's like, no, they're literally busting their tail behind the scenes, doing stuff at all hours of the day, the night, the this, the that. It's like you don't realize until you're in a job like what everybody's really doing. So we kind of just wanted to do a like behind the scenes.
Yeah. And again, this is like the biggest invitation ever to please, you know, send us feedback on drops, on buying, on what you're shopping
I know
for.
we always say that and everyone's like, it'd be so weird to just message in and say my feedback, but like that's literally what we're asking you to do.
I always screenshot it and send it to these guys. Like we really do listen.
Yeah. Love it.
Whether it seems like it or not, we take every single piece of your feedback and we always talk about it and we always take it in mind.
So speaking of feedback, we want your feedback on what you want to see this fall and winter, but we also want to know what's your favorite Vegas restaurant?
Oh, yes.
What's your favorite Vegas show?
I'm so excited.
And now, mind you, we don't have a ton of time. We are at market all day. So
there's something in the air there, though. We still stay up late.
Yeah, we stay up late. So that's what I was going to say. Keep in mind, we do try to do at least one like fun activity just to really like, you know, do some fun, experience where we are. So send us your best, your favorite, your recommendation. I'm going to tell you a really quick funny story before we wrap up that if you're going to recommend Blue Man Group, because last time we went to Vegas, we were in an Uber. Tracy's laughing because she knows that I'm about to tell this story about her.
I didn't know what story you were going to. We have so many. We should do a whole podcast
what I was just about to say.
on
We
Vegas
could do that.
last year.
Yeah, let's do that as our next one.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell this story really fast that we were in an Uber and we were late. And so, you know, we were all thinking about other things. And of course, my mind was thinking about what we were going to do later. And I'm like, you guys, what a classic Vegas thing. We should go to, drumroll please, Blue Man Group. Before I could get Blue Man Group out, let me preface, my phone was up, the tickets, I was going to buy the tickets, make it my treat. And before thank God I didn't click buy. Before I could finish the word Blue Man Group, Tracy turned to me so fast. Like when I say her head was on a swivel and she's like, no. I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds really stupid. I have never closed tabs so freaking fast on my phone. I was like freaking out before she saw that I had it open on the checkout
traumatizing a little bit.
Was it not on the checkout page? You saw it. My finger
No, she was on the checkout
swiping.
page, but Tracy was like, no.
Tracy was like, that is what losers are doing here now. I'm like, so anyways, I want to still go to Blue Man Group. So if you suggest it, brownie points. She's like, that's at the Luxor. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. This was my first time to Vegas, so I was like, okay.
Her point was like, if you're at the Luxor, you're not cool.
You're
anymore.
downgraded.
Yeah.
And now that she explained it, we're like, all right, fair. But when I tell you Tracy was I'm not even going to go into any more Vegas because I have so much to say. So we'll do that next. So tune in next episode for Vegas stories because I could go on and on. It was so much freaking fun and hilarious. So we're going to get into that.
Yeah, we'll post more stuff leading up to Vegas to get your guys' feedback on things, but please email us or send us a DM.
Yeah. And like we said, next episode will be just the fun of Vegas and not the business part.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you soon.